Welcome back, everybody. How's everyone doing? Hope everybody's had a fantastic week. Hopefully, everybody's got to see Thor: Love and Thunder, because that's what we're gonna be talking about today. Some spoiler stuff. So, before we get started, don't be afraid to click that like button. I can't talk right now, and ring the bell. So you could hear the things, the little ding, and don't be afraid to subscribe as well. It doesn't hurt you. It's completely free, and it supports us, makes us feel happy. Is that what everybody wants?
We just all want some love, That's all we want.
Yeah. Just like, oh buddy,
no.
Like, I would just be like, I just like how you started that joke with me. Oh, good stuff. But anyways, Bern, since you finally got to see it after getting over the vid, which I'm glad you're feeling better from and stuff. You're not coughing, you don't look deathly ill. You're not Dennis, so there you go. That's a good thing.
I know, yeah. I survived my battle, and I did get to go watch this movie the other day, which was great. I'm glad I got out soon enough to be able to check it out so we could do this. But yeah, as far as my overall thoughts of this movie, I really enjoyed this movie. I really enjoy, Taika's sense of humor and his sensibilities and all that stuff. So a lot of those elements really worked for me in the movies, and overall I just had a really great time. Like you said, I don't think this is either one of their best movies or one of the worst movies at all. It's somewhere like in the middle for me. It is very much one of those movies that I can see, like, if your tastes don't suit the movie, like if for those who didn't like Ragnarok, they're not gonna like this movie at all. Because
no, they'll probably hate it even more.
Yeah, because the movie like leans even further into like just the goofiness of it all. And for someone like me that works, and I know for a lot of other people it won't work. And I do understand that sort of criticism now having seen the movie. But Chris Hemsworth, I do really enjoy this version of Thor. This more like goofy himbo, like a '80s cartoon character that he plays in the Taika movies. The Ragnarok and then now Love and Thunder. And then I can totally understand for people who like more of the Endgame, Infinity War versions of Thor. I can totally see them not liking this version, and that is a little bit of a criticism, I think. The little bit of the character whiplash that we've been getting within that last few movies, Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, and then now this. It doesn't really feel like the same character all of the time, with the way that he acts and is portrayed. But for me personally, I do prefer this version of Thor. This more fun side of it, because we have the brooding hero. We've seen that before. I don't think we've gotten anything quite like this. Like this really dumb, stupid character that has all this godly power, and I really enjoy it. So for the people that don't, I totally get it. That it won't work for everyone. Definitely worked for me though. And that goes for a lot of the other characters in the movie. Like you said, Jane. I did really enjoy her. And I enjoyed Gore, although I do have some criticism there too, because like you mentioned in your review that because there are both of these storylines present in this movie, they have to juggle the two of them, and I don't think either one gets like their just due. I think what we get in the movie works for the movie, but I feel like had they been given their own moments to shine, maybe in their own separate movies, they could have done those storylines a little bit more justice. So that's where a lot of my criticisms come from, is the underdevelopment, it feels like, of those two characters, as much as I did enjoy them in the movie. So for me, as of right now, my overall rating is going to be a 3 out of 5. I really had a great time with this movie. Lots of fun. There's just certain elements there where I'm like, man, I really wish we could have gotten a little bit more time. Like this, I know this movie is like just under 2 hours. It hadn't been a little bit longer, I think they could have done those two storylines a little bit more justice. But in terms of the comedy, in terms of the characters themselves and their portrayals, I had no complaints there.
Man, I did not see a 3 out of 5. I thought you were gonna be around the 4 because how much you thoroughly enjoyed it. But just I guess you're a liar.
I mean, just thinking about it more, like, I do see
I'm
more of the
kidding.
faults in the movie. But like I said, this is definitely one that I'm going to be rewatching a lot because this is just a fun movie to watch, and I like to get that from time to time. Not everything in the Marvel universe. It feels like a lot of people expect every single movie to drive sort of the overarching narrative forward and like be this huge big reveal thing. I do like these movies though, where it's just sort of like a little character thing. The stakes aren't really too high in terms of the grand scale of the Marvel universe, and we can just focus in on these characters and have fun with them. This movie and the Guardians movies do that for me.
Yeah, I mean, I love both versions of Thor, Ragnarok slash Love and Thunder, and the Endgame. Given the Endgame, I thought he looked his best, in my opinion. Nothing has beaten Infinity War slash Endgame for me. But again, I just love the characters. I could care less. And I mean, I guess I could see the whole character whiplash thing going from serious, but at the same time, in his defense, the two movies he was in recently, half the world died, and he blamed himself. Like, and even then in Endgame, he was hilarious. Like, come on. So I just, I get you, but, um, anyways, I'm glad you finally saw it because I didn't want to spoil it, but I'm like, dude, the goats were truly the goats of this movie, were they not?
And then, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm sure audiences are gonna love it or they're gonna hate it because they lean
I fucking loved it.
and they repeat that joke so many times throughout the movie, and it got me every single time. I
Just
love
the
the
stupid
ghost.
screaming goats after he totally ruined that planet's like church, their very worshiping spot. And the guy knew he was giving away those goats as a giant fu. Like, get off my planet! I don't want you here.
Yeah, this is a gift. You cannot return it. No backsies. It was like, oh man, he's screwing with them so hard. I mean, they kind of deserves it
Just
though.
the active screaming. I didn't realize goats actually sounded like that. I thought that was just from a meme, but I guess they really do. So the screaming just kept killing me, especially when Thor's like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll use them for meat," and they stop and look at him like, "What'd you just say about us?" And he's like, "No, meeting people. The great conversation starters." It's like, oh god, you're an idiot.
The
But
two moments that got me were when they landed on the different areas. So when they landed in Omnipotent City, and then we have that pause, and then just a ah! And then when we get later on when they're going into the Shadow Realm, and it's that forced perspective shot where it looks like the planet's far away and they're traveling towards it, but then they just hit it. And get that pause, and then just the ah! Oh man, that sent me so hard. It was so good.
that was great. Yeah, like I said, overall, the beginning, I love the use of Guns N' Roses this time around. I thought that was I wanted to listen to Sweet Child of Mine and Welcome to the Jungle after I got out of that movie. Um, his rocker look in the beginning, like his cut off vest, it didn't work for me when I saw the behind the scene photos like a couple years ago, but seeing it now, I was like, oh yeah, that actually made perfect sense for where he's at in his life. And the Guardians, they look cool. There were some funny moments with them. They weren't in it enough, but at the same time, I think they kind of were like, you know what? Here's the story in the beginning that he's been traveling with them for the last couple years, so they're kind of like at their pass of like, okay, you do your thing, we'll do our thing again. Good luck, man. So I really like that. But what were your criticisms with? Was it Gore the God Butcher, or was it just mixing the two stories together?
I mean, before we get to that, I just wanted to mention that I did like that moment in the beginning. Like it looked very like Flash Gordon and like He-Man-ish, with his vest or whatever. But it seemed like they had like him and the Guardians had a little bit of a routine. Like him like going out there and then waiting for them to call on him for help and stuff, and Star-Lord like repeating his lines like yes, like this is our moment, like it's like their grift almost, like they fake it until they get Thor to come in and like lay down the thunder essentially. So that moment was great. Yeah, I do agree, like it would have been nice to see the a little bit more of the Guardians, but the way it stands, I feel like there wasn't really anywhere for them to fit into the overall narrative of the story. But I mean, as far as them juggling a bunch of storylines, which that you wanted to ask me. Yeah, it's just the fact that it was just they were trying to do both of them at the same time. Like I feel like they couldn't really focus in on one, like the Jane storyline, her getting Mjolnir, her having cancer and stuff. That's a huge, again, that's a huge story in the comics, and I really wish we had a little bit more moments of her coming into her own as a superhero. Like maybe like her getting used to her powers, because we see the moment that she goes to go to Mjolnir, and then like it assembles, and we cut away and we don't get to see her first transformation, or her first first time being imbued with these powers. They save it for like that reveal later on with them in the village. And I feel like, oh man, really could have used the moment of her getting these powers, and getting used to them, and trying to wield Mjolnir for the first time. I feel like it would have been like good character building, and I know they wanted to save it for the cool reveal, which in that fight was really cool. But as far as like a character thing, I feel like it needed a little bit, like another beat to sort of lead into that a little bit more. And as far as gore goes, I really could have used a little bit more butchering. We get that one really great scene, and the cold open of the movie with him, taking out that god that he worshipped, played by the actor that is Deacon in What We Do in the Shadows. So I thought that was a nice little cameo from one
Oh
of
my
Taika's older movies.
god.
I,
I didn't realize that was him, but that's perfect.
Mhm.
Of course it's Deacon. I now can see it as you said. I was like, oh my god, that's who that guy was.
Yeah,
I do look
the entire scene, I was like, who is this guy? Like, I recognize him, and by the end of it, I was like, oh, it's Deacon from What We Do in the Shadows. So anybody who's a fan of that movie, like, hopefully they caught that too. Um, but really, that's the only scene that we get of Gore being a god butcher. We get like a brief little montage. Not really a montage, but we see that the Guardians are looking at like a lot of his different kills. It really would have been cool to see one or two more of those. Of him, on his mission. Because as far as we get it, we just see him, kill the god for the first time, and then being like, all gods must die. And then we immediately jump into what we get in the story of just him taking these kids and trying to get the Bifrost to get to infinity. I really wish there was a little bit more of a journey for him. It feels like we got like the start, and then sort of like a bit of the end of it. I didn't feel like we got that middle piece of him going and taking on like different gods, and really being like emboldened in his journey of like wanting to kill them. So I really wanted a little bit more from both storylines. Like I said, what we got was cool. I just wish we had a little bit more time to flesh those out and give them a little bit more weight.
Yeah, I can get that. I think that's why I was kind of like, this movie would have been a lot better. But and you're welcome to disagree. Anyone is really, but I would say that also kind of ties into why I think it's too funny, because they are both such heavy storylines. Like especially the art in both of those books are really. I love the it's the same artist who did like his whole like unworthy story, or not the unworthy, but like that storyline with Gore the God Butcher and Jane. I feel like it's the same artist. I'm not sure, but it just looks so intense and so emotional. Like again, Jane. The whole reason why Jane is Thor is because she's trying to fight her cancer, and if anything, it made it worse. She just had no human energy to fight it. And Gore is on a warpath, which the beginning with his daughter dying, and then the god completely throwing in his face and tossing him aside was like, yeah, I am on his side. Go ahead and kill the gods, because they clearly don't care about people. They're literally out for themselves. But now that you point that out, I'm like, yeah, we probably could have used a little more goring from Gore, a little more murder and stuff. Could have seen at least could have seen some footage of it. That would have been kind of neat. But I think again, because of the comedy, it's like it didn't give these stories as much gravity. Jane's a little more so than Gore's, but it wasn't enough, I feel like, for something like this. So, and yeah, I think with the time length, they could have, with a little bit more time, like a 2.5 hour movie, we could have gotten a lot more for that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there wasn't any moments. Again, it's all subjective, like especially comedy. For me, there weren't any moments where the comedy like detracted from a scene. You know, like I know there's one scene in particular that you took issue with, but for me, they did let the dramatic moments play out, which I did enjoy. You know, like whenever there was a heavy moment that they really sat in it and they didn't feel the need to undercut, you know, the emotion with the joke. But I guess overall, in terms of tone, I do agree. You know, like when you have these heavy storylines, you kind of want to have the tone match that. Um, but what I think Taika does really well with his movies, especially that like in this one in like Ragnarok, and then I would say Jojo Rabbit, is that he does weave in a lot of these more heavy themes and these more like sad moments, and he does weave them in with comedy, almost as if like he uses comedy as like a way to cope with a lot of the you know the bad things that we're seeing on screen. And I felt that a lot here, especially with the Jane character, which I really liked, and I didn't know how to feel about it at first as it was going on, but the more I thought about it, like with the way she was acting, you know, like the whole moments of her like trying to find like a catchphrase and stuff, and it felt like those moments like they didn't work for me and like as I was watching them, but once we got to the end of it and once I was able to think about it, it's like, oh, okay, like I can see what they were going for there. It was like using comedy as a way to sort of like I guess pad out the pain, you know, like just to not be in the mood, or like to not like let these dire circumstances overwhelm you. You know, like she is dying of like stage 4 cancer, so she knows that her time is limited, so she's choosing to sort of like live in the moment and stuff like that. So and that was kind of felt like the theme of the movie to me. You know, like, you know, a lot of things can weigh you down, but if you choose to like live in the moment, you can like find some sort of like happiness, you know, in your life, and not let all these things drag you down. At least that's what I took away from the movie. You know, if other people didn't totally get it, but that's where it sort of works for me. That, you know, using with the use of the comedy in the movie, at least.
Yeah, and then again, the flip side to that is like the MCU uses humor a little too much to take away from the emotional gravity of these. But again, like you said, it's subjective. Me, I would have minded a little more serious. I do love Taika still. His comedy still lands, so I'm gonna keep watching his stuff, and I won't. You know, I'm not gonna say it's a bad movie any means. It just wasn't what I was hoping for. But other than that, it worked. And a couple things I mean, before I end up, I'm doing a compliment sandwich, Burn. So we start off with something good, we get all the cons out of the way, and then we can end on something good. Um, the only things I wish I could have had more of were Valkyrie, I think, just because she was so awesome in Ragnarok. I loved her in Endgame, especially her in the last battle. She looked awesome. I think there could have been a little bit more of her, even though I loved her in her scene outside of Jane's apartment, and just she has her Valkyrie sword, her two knives, and it's like, oh, and then just Henry, no, it's a speaker, just you know, the groove into it, and just okay, let's go. I thought that was really cool, and but it's just it wasn't enough. I wish we got to see more of her. And anyone who truly knows me like you, Burn, there's one character I wish I could have had in this movie. I've been looking forward to him for all these years. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody, Burn, who it is?
Would you be referring to Beta Ray Bill?
Absolutely, it's
any
Beta Ray Bill.
chance?
Yes, it is. I was so bummed he wasn't in this. It's like, Kevin, stop tasing me. Just give him to me. Just because, and that was, well, for those of you who don't know, he's the giant horse face looking character dressed like Thor. He's the real owner of Stormbreaker. He becomes the owner of Stormbreaker. And they teased him in Thor Ragnarok with his head, like a sculpture of his head outside the Grandmaster's tower that Hulk was living in. So I was really hoping we'd see him this time, but you know what? That's just me. I just wanted him in this, and I don't think I'll ever get him, but it's fine.
I mean, I don't really have too much love for the character, but I guess for those people who do, yeah, it is kind of like, all right,
you know what? He doesn't love
teasing.
you.
But I do agree with you on the whole Valkyrie front. I feel like they didn't really know what to do with her character in this movie. And I mean, the last movie in Ragnarok, she had like a really good arc, you know, of being this like this warrior who's sort of like lost their way and now like finds their way back. For here, I feel like they had an idea of where they wanted to go with her, like, you know, her being, you know, a king and having kingly duties, and her being a warrior at heart, and then not really fitting well. But by the end of the movie, they didn't really do much with that arc. I don't think she kind of is in the same place that she's in the beginning of the movie, and it felt like, oh, there was potential there for a really interesting arc, and they just kind of didn't do anything with her.
Yeah. But other than that, those are my real biggest things. Again, I just loved the visuals in this movie. I think it was a lot stronger than it was in Ragnarok because they had so much more to work with. Like Omnipotent City looked great, all the gold, and it definitely looked like a very heavenly place. Like that is where a place gods go. Even the Shadow Realm, where it completely took all color and it's just black and white. I was like, this is really cool. It's almost like we're watching a black and white movie, but when they have their hammers out and stuff, it brings out some color for light. So I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, that whole Shadow Realm sequence was one of probably my favorite of the movie. Like you said, the whole black and white, how the light would just like rotate around them, so the shadows kept changing positions, and yeah, whenever they would use a light source, that's where we would get some color and stuff. Like that was all really cool. And then the audio too. Like I don't know if you noticed that like their voices, like they went into like mono, so they sounded different than when they do in stereo like everywhere else. So I like that whole Shadow Realm sequence that changed all the visuals and the audio, and that was so cool.
Yeah, and then again, like I said, Thor really did have an interesting arc where he's been trying to find love. Oh, actually, I think one of the best jokes besides the goats was their Korg retelling their love story and how it started dwindling down. And Thor's like, I have to clean all this up, and he just made 2 plates. And she says, it's 2 plates. What are you talking? I don't know why that line got me so much. I think that was just, it felt like such a legitimate and organic thing. It's like, yeah, that was perfect. But
Yeah, that little couple montage did more for the relationship than I think the first two Thor movies did. I felt that, like them starting off really good and then just slowly drifting apart. Like it was almost sort of like Up, where we get like the beginnings and the ends of a relationship.
yeah, that was just great. But Chris Bale did such a great job. Like I said, I haven't read the God Butcher book, but dude, he was such an eccentric and out there character. I was like, man, you are horrible. It's like you've gone from a religious zealot to a complete maniacal, insane person, and Chris Hemsworth's daughter playing his daughter was great, and the end where Uncle Thor is a father to her. I love their little interaction. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it is at home, where she's just sitting. He's like, what is this? It's pan flaps from Earth. And just, I don't want pan flaps. I don't like them. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Where's your boots? She has her little like slippers. And just, these are it. Fine. You know what? Don't put your boots on. Don't complain about your feet. I don't want to hear a bit of it. I love their dialogue together. That was such a heartwarming and funny scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his arc in the movie I really enjoyed. Like going from having lost so many people in the last few movies, he sort of like closed himself off, and then throughout the journey of this movie, like him finding love again, and then literally finding love with the little girl, and being like a father to her, and like opening himself back up. I thought it was a really cool journey for Thor to go through. I think it's a nice payoff to everything we've gotten before, and like you said, it leaves potential for like him to grow more in the oncoming movies, however many there may be.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I really like the way it ended, and then the post credit scenes were pretty solid. Were they great? Yeah, they were okay. I like that the mid one was with Russell Crowe, because I thought Thor killed him when he sent his thunderbolt through him, and instead no, he's like, no, I'm okay. Like he's okay. They're healing him up, and he's like, no, I'm gonna make the people fear gods again. Like, okay, we're going super backwards now. And Roy Kent from Ted Lasso, I forget the actor's name, but he turns out to be Hercules. I thought that was great. What did you think?
That was such a cool surprise. I was like, "Oh snap! It's Roy Kent." Perfect pick for Hercules. I'm very excited to see him, show up in a future movie and probably battling Thor, and hopefully, becoming a good guy and joining the Avengers. So that would, just to get him in the MCU, I think is a real win for them, because he's great. If anyone hasn't seen Ted Lasso, they got to check it out.
Yeah, seriously, he's one of the best actors in that show. He's so funny, so serious, but just an idiot like everybody else in that show. So God love him. That was really cool. His look was like ripped straight out of the comics, and then in the end it was a bittersweet one where Jane is in Valhalla with Heimdall, and it was just like welcome to Valhalla, like welcome to heaven essentially. It's like, damn it, Jane, you had to die now. Like that was another really great scene between him and him in the hospital after their first like little fight with Gore, or their second fight with Gore in the shadows, where he didn't want her to go, even though he likes fighting with her and stuff. He's like, if you go, there's no tomorrow. I thought that was such a great line to say, because it's like, man, that's pretty deep, man. I respect that, and that's tough because it's like she wants to fight too, but it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, and we saw that she was screwed anyways. So, she sacrificed herself for the greater good, though.
Yeah, it was one of those bittersweet, ends for her. Like we know that her time on Earth wasn't long, and her wielding the power of Mjolnir wasn't making it any better. So the fact that she got to essentially go out on her sword, like going out like in the way of a Viking, essentially like going out in battle and getting taken into Valhalla. I thought it's a really cool end for potential end, for the Jane character. I don't know if there's any way they can bring people back from there. I guess we'll see in the future. But if this is where they leave it, her being in the hall of all of Thor's friends, so if potentially he dies, at least he has all his loved ones there with him, there in Valhalla. So just the thought of that is sort of like comforting, and also, like I said, it is really cool for her character to get that like heroic sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, Bern. Anything else you wanted to spoil for everybody?
I mean, I don't know. Like, there's just a lot of like really cool like little visual things. Everything in Omnipotent City was such like visual candy. Like from all the different gods that we see. The little bow god, the god of dumplings, and then like the Cronin god. Him sitting on a throne of scissors. I thought that was a hilarious joke, and then. Just Russell Crowe was hilarious. His horrible Greek accent and the way he acted. Just always like, you are not invited to the orgy. It's like, oh my god, it's so stupid. But it goes to show like why Gore was sort of, like you said, right in his motivations. All these gods were very apathetic and they only cared about being worshipped. So it's like, yeah, you know what? He was kind of right.
All I have to say to that is. There's the goats. I love them, God. But anyways, that's all. I think that's all from us. What do you say, Bern?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, really fun movie, and one I'll be rewatching as soon as it comes out too on demand, and I'll probably go check it out in the theaters again one more time. But yeah, it's such a great time.
Yeah, it really is. I'm definitely gonna go see it again. I already saw it with my brother again, so it's only a matter of time before I see the third. But guys, let us know. Like, it's been out for about a week now. So, have you seen this movie? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What were some of your favorite scenes? Without trying to spoil the rest of the YouTube community, maybe don't put in the comments, but just say, did you like it or not?
Well, I mean, this is a spoiler video, so everything goes. I think.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So you know what? Screw the community. They're looking on the spoiler video. You're gonna get comments like that. So, let us know, and stay tuned again for more episodes from us, guys. We got a lot more stuff to talk about. Even though Miss Marvel wrapped up, there's still plenty of stuff coming this summer. So stay tuned, guys. And as always, stay bodacious, and then keep on ranting for us.
Yeah, everybody, be good, be safe, and as always, we will catch y'all on the next one.